Pull yourself up a chair and join us at the Energy Roundtable.
Welcome to the Energy Roundtable. This week we get back at it after a bit of a hiatus. I'm in my backyard enjoying the vitamin D, and I'm joined as always by Lisa Barber. Lisa, welcome.
Oh, except you got the last name wrong now, Matt. Let's change it to Pat.
Do we have to restart?
No, don't restart. Just keep it. It's okay. It's good.
Okay. We'll keep that blooper in. Yes, I have a new co-host. Much better than my last one. Lisa Katz, welcome to the Energy Roundtable.
Thank you, Matt. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day, and lots on the go, lots to talk about. So let's get in, and I will start with something that is near and dear to your heart, I know, and it's an announcement that Yamaha Motors plans to make fully carbon neutral motorcycles by 2050. And I know you're more of a high-end European motorbike girl. I know that, but I picked this article because there's a lot of electric motorbikes, or there's some electric motorbikes, and I know for you enthusiasts that's not quite the same. But this is not really what they're talking about, I don't think. They talk about carbon neutrality across all business activities, including the life cycle of the products by 2050. So this is a great example of kind of scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. Scope 1 being, fuels consumed on site. Scope 2 being stuff that comes in as fuels or energies like electricity distributed to the site to make it. And then scope 3, which is the value chain, the supply chain. And so they really want to, by 2050, even their supply chain to be carbon neutral. And that's a pretty aggressive target to be able to reach down into your supply chain. They also want to, I love this phrasing, it says Yamaha also intends to assess the CO2 emitted per person during movement. I love that phrase, movement, in one of its products. So I think what they're looking at is ways to use efficient and low carbon power sources. So not electricity, I don't think. I think they're looking at maybe some alternative fuels or things like that. But to me, what stuck out was I knew it was a motorbike story, which I hoped you'd like. And the whole supply chain, like going beyond the supply chain, is not something we hear about every day when we talk about carbon neutrality. So What do you think? You're the expert in this field.
Well, so actually, Yamaha was my preferred brand when I was racing motocross.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, I was sponsored by Yamaha Canada at the time.
Okay.
So I do like the brand very much. I have to assume that, like many brands, they are going to start to probably go towards electrification or battery storage, I should say, or maybe hydrogen fuel cells or something like that, I would see. But certainly just from a brand perspective, as you said, to kind of look at scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. I mean, I think that's what it's all about. You can't be limited to just the one block, right? You have to kind of be focused on all three in most cases. So that's great. I think I give it a thumbs up. I hope that they stay with some form of gaseous fueled engine so that I still have my roar when I turn the throttle. But we'll see what happens.
Right on. Cool.
All right. So my article, I've collected a couple of these actually over the last couple of weeks since we've been on a bit of a hiatus because of vacations and so on. They're both from the Toronto Star, but they have been in been put out by different people. I think this one was also put out by Bloomberg. So it's Carnival says cruises will be carbon neutral by 2050. And basically they're talking about the company's goals to basically reduce their carbon footprint by 2030 and be carbon neutral by 2050. They plan to do that by involving more liquefied natural gas powered vessels, optimizing hull designs to reduce drag, and using shoreside power sources when available. And then some of their other sustainability objectives include cutting absolute emissions of particulate matter by 50% by 2030 and relative to 2015 numbers, and slashing single-use plastic items by 50% by the end of this year versus 2018. What I like about the article is, first of all, I've been on 2 cruises in my lifetime. I also used to work with the yachting sector in a previous life. So I know how hard it can be to cut emissions from, especially cruise ships that use bunker diesel.
Right.
Bunker fuel. It's a very heavyweight fuel. Does not respond favorably to emission controls. They have a tendency of gunking up and fouling up very quickly, and they are very expensive to replace. So the fact they're looking at an alternative like liquefied natural gas, I think, is great. And then similarly to really automobiles, how we've looked at optimizing the design for less drag and better fuel efficiency, lighter designs. The fact that they're looking at that as well, I think, is great. They're doing something that is really just using their smarts to reduce carbon without any additional cost, really.
Yeah. When I hear Carnival, I hear party boat, right? They're the party boat cruise line, right? And so, the LNG piece is so interesting, and always thinking about how do we green the natural gas piece, and we've talked about it lots on this show. Our renewable natural gas, that umbrella is getting broader and broader, right? And that includes biomethane, that includes green hydrogen. And so is there some of the folks that we are talking to have ties into LNG terminals, right? And so can we, we're talking massive volumes, but can a portion of that come from renewable sources? I think some of what's happening in the market now is going to California and is getting that market, I think, is starting to get saturated, right? So where are the next markets for this renewable natural gas? So hey, cruise lines, cruise lines, it'll be interesting to watch their development in a post-COVID world as well, right? So we'll see what comes of it, but always great to hear brands that we recognize continue to take steps forward. So yeah, very, very good. My next headline is a Forbes headline from today. The headline is Heliogen and Bloom Energy Agreement signals the start of the hydrogen age. So my thought process might be that the hydrogen age has already started just based on the level of activity. But really, this is a partnership to produce green hydrogen is what it is. And the way it's green, so Bloom Energy is kind of the darling, or one of the darlings, in the hydrogen fuel cell market. And on many of those fuel cell producers who take hydrogen to make electricity, or take natural gas and make electricity, can go the other way through electrolysis and take electricity and make hydrogen. And so Bloom, with the electrolysis side, is partnered with Heliogen, who I guess bring concentrated solar power to the table. And so the article has this image. I think it's a computer rendering, but it's basically this concentrated solar array, which is basically redirecting the sun's rays to a central place, and then they're making steam, and the steam drives a steam turbine to make electricity. And so the thinking is that that basically you're taking solar, and instead of PV, you're doing concentrated and then making hydrogen. So it's a big deal. The author kind of goes on to talk about why, he has this interesting analogy of why the announcement matters. He talks about, it's his phone weighs 121 pounds, and I had to read the paragraph three times. And then he goes on to say that that's the carbon footprint of the life cycle of his phone. And so he really does a good job of kind of taking what could be a very complicated technical story, solar, thermal, concentrated solar, hydrogen, really nitty gritty, nerdy stuff, and bringing it home in terms of greenhouse gas. And so, we'll see. The article goes on to talk about green, blue, and gray hydrogen. And there's some big names behind this. So, I'm fascinated by concentrated solar, and we'll see if this model takes off and gets the economies of scale that a project like this must need. But pretty fun to watch the market.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I haven't heard of, concentrated solar, or a project involving concentrated solar to date. Heard of lots of different, at least related to hydrogen. And I haven't, obviously the hydrogen space is growing very, very rapidly globally. So I give it a thumbs up. Cool.
Good. You got one more for us?
Yes, my next article is Shell plans new carbon capture and storage project. So it's announced plans to build a large-scale carbon capture and storage project at its Scotford complex near Edmonton, which is part of its strategy to become net zero emissions company by 2050. I think the project's name is called Polaris CCS, or carbon capture storage, and it will capture carbon dioxide from Shell-owned Scotford refinery and chemicals plant. And I think it's going to be, it's got a storage capacity of about 300 million tons of CO2 over the life of the project. So I was excited about this for a couple of reasons. I love carbon capture storage. I think it's becoming more prevalent in our market and needs to be, especially, for a company like Shell, and just really processes and equipment that may not be able to be electrified or go towards that route. If we can at least capture the carbon and store that underground, and that enables companies to reach their net zero goals, I think it's a good news story for everybody. So I was excited to hear that there's another carbon capture storage project out there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a thumbs up, because anytime we're capturing carbon, that's a good thing. I think with the carbon capture, that's half of it, and then it's, is it utilization or is it storage, right? And so, the storage at those volumes, and I must admit, I don't know a lot about, where are they storing it, how do they store it? That's kind of something I'm not totally familiar with, but that's a good thing. I'm really focused on, I think, particularly for smaller projects, where is the utilization, right? Like, how can we utilize this? How can we turn what we pulled out of that exhaust stream into another revenue stream? Whether that's, agriculture, whether that's, pharmaceuticals, whether that's food and bev, I don't know. And we're having some conversations even last night at a dinner I was at about, it's a massive footprint. It's not cheap. I mean, but that's the goal, is how do we get that to some kind of utilization that we can actually get a revenue stream. So, but, we need these big projects to continue to move not only the industry, but also the knowledge base and so yeah, it's and Shell is a leader. So it's great and good to hear that people are reinvesting in Alberta and spending capital, and that those things are coming back. So that's very exciting. Good.
Yeah.
All right, time for our face-off. We'll bring in our man behind the glass, Mr. Mark Charbonneau. Mark, welcome to the Energy Roundtable.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
So today's face-off, we will sort of explore the topical subject that everyone's probably wanting to put behind them, COVID-19, and the prospect of potentially having a passport or some sort of travel certificate that outlines that you've had the shot and that you are allowed to flee the country. So heads or tails, I'll let Lisa pick. And it's obviously pros or cons. Somebody takes a stance on they agree with it, and the other does not. So here we go. Heads or tails?
I'll do heads.
You want what? Sorry.
Heads.
Yes, it is heads.
Oh, okay.
So do you want pros or cons?
Well, I can actually. I'm prepared to do both.
Of course you are.
Of course, that's right. You know me. All right. Well, I will take. I'm going to take the pros. I'll take the pros.
Okay.
So I think there's a couple of pieces here. First of all, I think if we make it mandatory that somebody's got to carry around a passport so that they can get into, areas or access areas easier, whether it be gyms or restaurants or airplanes, etc., I think it's going to motivate a lot more people to get the vaccine. I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits that we're going to see. Outside of course, the benefits to the economy of, opening things up more and faster. Obviously, less restrictions means more people are out there spending money, and we really need to obviously bounce back from this thing. So that's definitely the second piece of it, I think. I think the other benefit is it's going to allow for safer travel, especially when we're thinking about whether it's, the US or Europe or other, areas that, might have otherwise overwhelmed hospitals or healthcare facilities. Knowing that the chances of, even if you contract COVID-19, the chances of you, getting hospitalized or needing to be hospitalized is far reduced. So I think that's another big benefit, not to, stress those local healthcare systems. And I think in general, it just makes others feel very safe around you. Matt knows the story already, but my daughter turned 1 last week. And so we had her first birthday party. And we were a little bit surprised, but we had actually 3 parties specifically because of COVID. And really just some of the sensitivity still around it. But the last party that we had, which was with friends and some of their kids, we actually had a couple who asked us before if everybody has been vaccinated and with both vaccines, not even with just the one. And so it was a little bit interesting. We actually decided to go around and ask everybody if they had received their vaccines because we felt like we had to report otherwise. But the fact that people are thinking about that and just the fact that, some are viewing it to be safer, I think, makes everybody feel better around them. So, I take the pro stance on that one.
So I thought I'd have a fighting chance this time because Mark sent the topic out with limited prep time, although maybe Lisa got a sneak preview. I don't know. But I thought as somebody who isn't prone to prepare, I thought I might have an advantage or a level playing field at least. And as always, that's not the case. But I will also start by saying I am pro-vaccine. But the answer on vaccine passports is none of your business. That's a privacy thing. That's my right to know whether or not I've been vaccinated. And it's quite frankly, nobody else's business but my own. And so, I think that's the first place to start. I think you have a great swath of the population, particularly south of the 49th parallel, that are resisting vaccinations, not sure that a vaccine passport would push them towards that. And you're then going to compromise what they can do and where they can put their money back in the economy. So, not to name names, but they'll be constricted to Alabama, and they'll have to, support the market there. So, you mentioned travel, and you said, hey, listen, travel is going to get better. I've been traveling for 18 months or a year, I guess, at this point, and I don't think travel is a source of significant spread. I don't know the data 100%, but I think there's other areas that are much higher spread. So we've been doing it safely for a year. With the level of vaccinations we have now, it shouldn't be, it should not be and then you have, this dividing line, and you start to separate people into, kind of different levels and different kind of parts of society, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And I think it's a personal choice issue, and I think people are entitled to that. I personally, again, I'm pro-vaccine, but I think you can have your choice, and I don't think you should have to demonstrate your vaccination to continue to go along with your life. So that's my 2 cents on the topic.
Wow, this is a tough one because I've been flip-flopping back and forth on this with talking with friends and family about it too. But I'm going to say that I'm going to go with that. That you shouldn't have to prove that you've been vaccinated in order to travel. Just because, again, I'm pro-vaccine too. My wife works in healthcare, so I'm all for it. But again, I think there's certain things that you shouldn't have to prove in order to live your life. So, and I think that's one of them.
What's interesting with that, because I did, as you know, prepare for both sides.
Yes, of course.
One of the interesting things about this whole COVID thing, though, that we really have to be thinking about is by suggesting, at least at this stage, that people have to have, both vaccines, let's say, to travel, is it really is being discriminatory because not everybody has had the chance to get offered that second vaccine, even though the majority of our population here in Canada is doing great. I mean, what are we now? We're first in the world, I think, right, with vaccinations?
Yep.
But there are other jurisdictions outside or other countries outside of Canada that have not had the chance to do that. And granted, some people have just said, plain day, they don't want to get vaccinated. That's it. And I think that's their business, even though I am pro-vaccine. But it is being a little bit discriminatory, isn't it? So it's like, I think we're just going to be, we're going to be learning a lot over the next couple of months of what is kosher, so to speak, on it and what you really can and can't do. So anyways, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's also some concert venues that we're talking about doing something similar where you had to prove, in order to even purchase tickets online, you'd have to prove that you were vaccinated. So I don't know if they're going to go ahead with that either, but there's, that's also one of those things that's going on right now.
I saw this morning on I think it was my Instagram feed at the Vancouver airport. Apparently there's 2 lines and it says right up on the sign, unvaccinated and vaccinated.
No
and
way.
I was surprised because what does it matter? You get on the airplane, doesn't matter, right? If you just know specific requirements there. So
it must be trying that as an incentive.
I don't know. It must be. I don't know. It was real news though. It wasn't fake news.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Last week I was in Calgary for the Stampede, and at Nashville North, which is some kind of concert venue, I guess, they were insisting on if you were going to come in, you had to show proof of vaccination. So it is definitely happening. But yeah, it will be. We are in interesting times, to say the least. So, Mark, thank you for another great face-off, as always. Lisa, thank you for a good roundtable. Let's make sure we get together again soon around this table to talk about the news and notes in the energy space. Thank you both. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.